Hi, and welcome into the world of sports. I'm Scott Morris.
I'm Eric Johnson.
I'm Malik Grady.
And we will be discussing a number of topics ranging from both Sam Houston and the world of pro sports. Today we will be talking about a variety of those sports, giving our thoughts on the games of the week, and much more. Welcome to the Playbook. Now, let's take a closer look. Welcome back into the Playbook. First up on deck, we've got our segment Pause Up, Pause Down, where we discuss topics going on and heavily debated in our sports here at Sam Houston and give a pause up if we agree or a pause down if we disagree. First up, guys, I've got Coach Raven Justice returning. At the beginning of the season, she told the program that she was going to have to make a leave of absence for the entire season. However, she came back and since then is 5-0, including a really impressive win against a very good basketball team. Eric, we'll start with you. Pause up, pause down, do you agree?
All right, Scott, I'm going to have to agree with you on pause up because it's evident that the team needed them, okay? So I feel like if Coach Justin didn't come back, they would keep losing if we had to be real. And you have something?
Oh, no. I'm bad.
No,
cut you off, bro.
No, you're good. But, yeah, I think it's just evident that they needed them. So, yeah.
Well, I would have to give her a pause up as well because you could just tell from the numbers. What was it? 0-5 to start the season. I have a lot of double-digit losses also as well. But once Coach Justice came back, the first game they played, they win against UTRGV 66-52. The next is Cal Baptist 73-65. You got Seattle, that's a 19-point win. And then you also got to put in account the close games as well. I feel like Coach Justice just has his team prepared every week. They come out, they ready to fight. They beat Dixie State by 2. They beat Utah Valley by 3. They just beat Chicago State by 3 as well. So I feel like that's the big difference that this team needed to succeed, and now that's why they've been on this win streak.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree with both of y'all. I got to give a big pause up. I mean, you know, credit to Brittany Mason, the assistant coach, for stepping up and stepping into Coach Justice's shoes. But this team is day and night compared to when she was in charge. I mean, they look better defensively, better collectively. They're finding spacing on the offense that they really weren't able to. I mean, you have to credit a lot of their players about that. And that big win against Cal Baptist, they didn't lose a game in conference since February of 2020. So, I mean, that's big. And when we can jump to the men's side of basketball now, men's basketball currently second in the WAC conference, you know, a very good basketball conference, and they weren't seen to be a very talented team. However, they're second in the league. But do y'all feel like they're a top 3 team in this conference? Malik, we'll start with you.
Men's, yes, I do, and that is because of the teams that they are beating. And also, I know they had 2 losses, but I feel like once it's all said and done, the win against SFA, I felt like was really impressive, and I felt that's what really puts them at that top 3. The teams under them records aren't as good, so I definitely have Sam Houston as my top 3.
All right, Eric?
Same thing what he said. It's the team that they're beating. I think New Mexico State is the top of, I think, number 1, and they're 10-2, and Seattle's 10-2 too as well, and Sam Houston is 10-3. So I feel like they deserve to be up there. And they've been working hard, so
yeah.
Definitely believe that.
I definitely see right now second, like I said, in the conference standings, playing very well early in the season. Those big wins, like you said, against New Mexico State, Grand Canyon, and SFA back to back. But right now, in these 2-week span that they've been playing, I don't know if I can say truthfully they're a top 3 team. I'll give a pause down. Now, Savion Flagg, DeMarcus Lampley, Jaden Ray, they've been playing incredible. Last game, Savion Flagg had a 14-14 stat line. However, they had a really bad loss against Seattle, the number 1 team. It was very hyped up. It was the number 1 team at the time. In that second half, Sam Houston was leading, and they lost a 20-1 run, in which really kind of derailed that game. And then again, coming back home, playing against Utah Valley, another decent top 4 team, and just not being able to get the job done. So early in the season, top 3, absolutely. And I think by the end of the season, they will finish top 3, and I think they will make a very deep conference run, especially with Coach Hooten hopefully getting his first chance to go to the dance. But right now, these last few games they've been playing, I truthfully don't know if I can say that they're a top 3 team.
What do you think they could do better?
I mean, better shooting. Some games they're very hot with their shots. Some games they can't find a shot until the second half, so they really got to find their groove right there.
I got you.
And that'll close up, pause down here for today. Next up after the commercial break, Coach Garrett Volish. We sat down with him of softball and kind of discussed the season coming up ahead, as well as talking about some Sam Houston football players possibly getting drafted into the NFL. Stay tuned.
Sam Houston Memorial Funeral Home was established in September of 2003. Our partnership with the Small Business Development Center is just like our partnership with other vendors in our community.
We developed a marketing plan, a strategic analysis, as well as social media presence.
If you let them, they can take your dream, put it to paper. That's the way we got started, and 13 years later, we're very happy to be a part of this community.
I enjoy seeing kids, regardless of their age, see the light bulb go on and they have that aha moment. In 1997, I started Tomorrow's Promise, the Montessori School of Huntsville, with 3 students. The Small Business Development Center helped me with classes on how to open a business.
We also helped Kay market through social media, website analysis, and develop funding opportunities.
We have grown to 38 teachers and over 220 students.
Last week, we sat down with head coach Garrett Volish of softball to discuss the season coming up ahead. They got some great matchups, including facing #1 Oklahoma, who won the College World Series for softball last year. So we kind of talked and sat down with him, his expectations for a team that he says is very young and very hungry.
Things have been going really well. You know, this time of year, you're usually battling a little bit of sickness and soreness and that type of stuff, and so we've had our bout with that, and it's been hard getting all 22 kids there at the same time, around all the little bumps and bruises and things that we've had going on. But today is going to, I think, be the first day we have everyone, and so that's a good thing. And we're getting closer and trying to make sure kids are feeling good when it gets to the season. But for the most part, practices have been very competitive. They've been very positive from an energy standpoint, and I think we're building up to that opening day kind of right on schedule. The depth of our team, I really love the depth of this team. We are deep at just about every position outside of a few, and more so than I feel like we've been in the past. And so it's just a lot of kids on different days doing really positive things. If a kid has a rough day, it seems like the next day they bounce back right away. And then we have a few that are stacking some really good practices together, really good scrimmages together, one after another. You know, we're a young team, we're full of youth, but that's exciting because everyone seems pretty hungry and motivated and chomping at the bit to get their piece of the pie, if you will. This team's going to be fun to watch. I think that, again, we're as athletic and deep as we've been since I've been here as an assistant or a head coach. That doesn't translate into anything other than what it is, and I think that our team knows that we have a lot of growing to do and a lot of things that we need to get better at, and that's kind of the approach we're having with everything that we're doing. We're looking to play our very best today, use that experience, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, and turn it into something that's a teachable moment, something we can learn from, something we can get better from. And I think whether you have a very old team or you have a very young team, if you can have that approach, because a lot of times older teams feel like, oh, we've execution, and that might be true, but I really want our kids to stay hungry to get better, to look at the season as a climb. And so we might hit some rough patches along the way, but at the end of the day, as long as we're taking those experiences, those rough patches, and turning them into something that we can learn from, I think that they'll have a chance to be very competitive, not only in conference play, but potentially in postseason as well. And if you're a Bearcat fan and you like softball, a lot of fun to watch.
And that was our conversation with softball head coach Garrett Volish about the upcoming season, which they just finished up their Bearcat Classic to open up the season, which we'll talk about later in the show. Now we're going to move to football, in which we have a few players from Sam Houston who are trying to build some draft stock, you know. Jaquez Ezzard, a big part of that championship team last year, playing in the NFL Collegiate Bowl, and then, of course, the big Senior Bowl. Ezzard was a late invite, but the big talk was cornerback Zion McCollum getting an invite to the Senior Bowl, having 2 players from Sam Houston in that bowl game, and we have some clips from that game to show both the Collegiate Bowl and the Senior Bowl to kind of show what they did. are some highlights of both the NFL Collegiate Bowl as well as the Senior Bowl, in which Jaquez Ezzard and Zion McCollum played in that Senior Bowl. And kind of we're going to bridge that to, possible NFL prospect. Sam Houston does play in the FCS, which is a step below, the FBS, and they don't get as much draft recognition or, eyes at the time. However, Cooper Kupp just won the Super Bowl MVP. He won Offensive Player of the Year, and he was from Eastern Washington, an FCS school. And so does that kind of change a little bit about how NFL scouts look at the FCS to kind of find these talents? Eric, we'll start with you.
I want to start with you first.
Okay.
My bad.
I
I had
can
to think
go.
about that question.
I could go and I also feel like I could take it a step further, and I could also talk about like HBCUs as well. It's the same with that with the #1 cornerback recruit going to Jackson State. It lets you know. I mean, I'm not a scout, but it lets you know that there's talent everywhere. It's not just at Texas. It's not just at Ohio State or Alabama. You can find gems, you can find diamonds in the rough everywhere. Every team has just that great player, and I feel like with somebody like Cooper Kupp putting people on notice, that you'll start to see an increase in more FCS, HBCU, more smaller conference schools going to the pros. I think so.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I agree with what he said, because usually scouts, NFL scouts, they go for, I want to say like big schools, and there's not a lot of, how do I say this? Small schools have the same talent as big schools, if that makes sense.
They just don't get the media
Yeah, they
coverage.
don't get the same treatment that big schools get, and I feel like NFL coaches need to branch out into getting more smaller school talents, and so yeah, I agree with what he said really much about that part.
Yeah, and I mean, so right there with you, the FCS has produced a lot of good talent. I mean, Josh McCown, of course, an alumni of Sam Houston, had a very long NFL career. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo, who led the 49ers to a Super Bowl and another win away from making it to his second Super Bowl, and just kind of players like that. I mean, Trey Lance being taken #3 overall this last year, playing from North Dakota State in the FCS, as well as Carson Wentz a few years back going #2. I mean, there is the talent in the FCS and these HBCUs that I think scouts kind of overlook, and I really hope that the play of people like Cooper Kupp really open up their eyes. And so going a little bit further, Zion McCollum, he's kind of projected maybe 4th, 5th round pick. What do y'all think he brings to the table for an NFL team?
I guess I could start off with this one. I would say Zion, he's tall, he's 6'4", great athleticism, 200 pounds. He's a great speed going sideline to sideline, great athleticism. He could be a good rotational piece, I feel like, in the NFL. If he were to be drafted, I would feel like he would have to go to a team that's real strong on man-to-man coverage. I feel like he can match up against like tall receivers one-on-one. So if he goes against like a DK Metcalf or something like that, he could be really good. Other than that, I would say I know he came up a lot doing more man-to-man coverage. So zone coverage, I feel like would be my only question mark for him. But other than that, I feel like if you're a defense and you run a lot of man-to-man schemes, that's a steal.
What team you think he'll?
That's
say the Cowboys.
Dallas.
Do not say.
I mean, you put him on the side with Trayvon Diggs. That's a good. I like that. I really like that. Yeah. I can't think of another one right now.
Eric, you got any opinions where he might go? Where you feel like he'd work well?
Cowboys. That's like a big possibility. I can see the Rams actually. I actually can see that, and I'm kind of biased. Patriots.
I'm gonna go with a bit of a dark horse team, a team that's always been known for having some good cornerbacks. The Arizona Cardinals. Antonio Cromartie, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Patrick Peterson. They've always had that kind of fast, strong, tall cornerbacks, and I really think that in a system like that, he may be able to work really well. And on the offensive side of the ball, and actually more so special teams unit, Jaquez Ezzard. I mean, I think he had, 3 or 4 punt returns last season, or 2 seasons ago during our championship run. I mean, of course, his hands are like none other. And I think really, like an NFL comp talent-wise, he reminds me a lot of Steve Smith. He's real quick, he's strong, but he plays bigger than his actual size. So what do y'all think he brings to the table?
I could go more modern times. I would say he reminds me of like a Percy Harvin, maybe not as big, but like a Debo Samuel. You know, you can do all kinds of things with a talent like this. Well, with him being on the shorter end of the stick as a wide receiver, definitely a slot guy as well. I could put him in the slot. I could do a lot of wide receiver. What is I forgot the jet sweeps.
Yeah.
There you go. I can see him doing a lot of that stuff, and definitely he could be a very good piece to somebody's special teams.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Eric.
Same thing, special teams.
Special teams.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's how a lot of receivers came into the NFL. I mean, you look at Des Bryant, had a very nice NFL career at the Cowboys, came out of OSU as a punt returner.
Right.
For his size and his strength, and he was a punt returner. I mean, you make your mark on special teams, you can make any kind of career in the NFL. And I think Ezard, he's got the speed and he's got, I mean, his awareness, it's like none other. But when he gets going and he really kind of pumps up his game, I mean, he can be the best receiver on the field. You know, not as much hype and draft stock as there is for him as there is Zion. However, I really think whoever he ends up with is going to get a steal of a punt returner, especially in today's game that's really developing into one that, you know, doesn't have, you know, your Devin Hesters or your Percy Harvins anymore. So, I mean, I really think that, like, that's going to be a big part coming up for the NFL draft. And, I mean, big talk, the last person to get drafted from him, Houston, was P.J. Hall back in, I believe it was 2017 or 2018. And that's our talk about, you know, possible Sam Houston players in the NFL, kind of a big deal. We're going to go to commercial break, and we'll come back for our game picks of the week, as well as a little bit of recap. And, of course, we can't not talk about the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event of the year. Stay tuned for that.
The proud son of hardworking immigrant parents, Eric Rodas chose to serve his country. A father, a soldier, and now a college graduate. He proved that circumstances have nothing to do with your outcome. Since 1879, we've been helping students like Eric determine their future. Sam Houston State University, a great name in education. Third-generation Bearcat Tacey Webb roped her way to a national championship through her hard work and fearless dedication. Trading her saddle for nursing scrubs, Tacey set her sights in another arena, a place where she can champion the needs of others. Since 1879, we've been helping students like Tacey reach their championship potential. Sam Houston State University, a great name in education. As a boy,
Yeah. Welcome back here to the Playbook. Now we're going to take a little bit of a recap from Sam Houston sports in the last week or so. The big one being the Bearcat Classic for softball. They open up their season with this tournament every year. This year they go 1-3. They play number 25 Wichita State twice. They play Dayton in their one win against South Dakota. That game is down 7-3 for softball. Came back 9-8. Eric, I'll start with you. Can you talk about the resilience of a team that comes down like that, especially in their first game of the season?
Well, in general, you have to have motivation and dedication to come back from a tough loss or when you're down, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. When you're down, so I do applaud them for coming back from the loss. Well, when they were down, so yeah.
Malik?
Great win by the softball team. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know baseball. I'm sorry. I don't know.
And then, of course, they were supposed to play 5 games. You know, that one against HBU, weather not the best friend this weekend. However, it did help out. It did, cancel a few games. They played Wichita State, like I said, twice, number 25 in some polls across the country. They lost both those games, respectively, though, 9-5 and 16-9. Playing a top-ranked opponent, kind of like, if you're a coach of a team, what do you tell your team when it's kind of that big level of skill gap? Or not skill gap, but kind of just, national recognition to a smaller mid-major school?
That's a great question. I would say just it's the average answer. Try your best. Just work hard and just give it your all. That's pretty much it I can really say.
Oh, I say if I was the player at the smaller school, I would be excited because this is my chance. This is a platform for me. Actually, it's like a smaller school playing a big school like that. There's gonna be a lot of eyes on you. There's gonna be camera time. There's gonna be stuff like that, and a lot of more fans will, I'm sure, want to go see those type of games against those bigger schools. So if I'm at the smaller school, like I said, I'm very excited. I'm like, this is my chance to go out. This is my chance to show what I got. I mean, people might not know who I am, but they gonna know who I am today.
Even if it's a blowout.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, as long as you do what you know you can do and just leave it all out there on the diamond, then sky's the limit,
I agree with you, and I mean, in talking to Coach Garrett Polish before the season, he did say that they take it as any other game and kind of getting the national recognition. You never know what's going to happen. I mean,
You're right.
About 2 years ago, I remember SFA beat Duke, who was #1 in the country, and I mean, it's still talked about.
They did? For real?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
about 2 years ago, they beat Duke
I
on national TV, and so you never know who's going to get that upset. And it could always be your team, and I mean, it's going to be a big step forward. Sam Houston, like I said, they played #1 Oklahoma. They lost 2 games all of last season, and so that'll be a big test to see, can they compete with a team of that kind of caliber. And we'll move over to basketball. Both men and women winning on Saturday against Chicago State. Men's with a nice, cushion of a victory, 72-59. Women's playing it very close at 61-58, but still both teams getting the win. Kind of coming down the stretch. How important are these wins?
These ones are important, really. I mean, yeah, these ones are important, really. I think in general, team winning is important, but I think winning as a team is most important, and that's what they showcase. So.
Yeah, winning is definitely important for both sides, for the men's and the women, because on the men's side of the ball, you're sitting at 10-3 right now, and you're gonna want the top seed. So it's important that you win every game from here on out. We're about the mid to the end of the season. So they need to continue to do what they're doing, limit mistakes. And for the women's, who I actually have a great deal of confidence in, I mean, 6 straight, it's important that you already got 6 losses. So you got to keep riding this train, got to keep going, so then, there's no telling where you could end up at the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. And we can go, upcoming schedule picks for this week. First up, Wednesday, softball plays against A&M University, a big team. Who y'all got in that one?
I love you, Sam, but I got A&M. Go Bearcats. I got A&M on that one.
I do have A&M on that one. I'm going to be real. If I had to be honest,
I think it'll be a good test for Sam Houston softball. I remember back early 2020, I traveled down with the team to College Station, and they won in about 30-degree temperature. And this team is very deep for softball. They played a very good first game against Wichita State. I think potentially they could pull off a very close upset here early in the season, and that would give them all the motivation in the world. Right. Going over to the other side of that sport, we got baseball coming up. First series this year, that is against Nebraska. 4-game series. A lot of connections between coaching staffs. Picks in that one is a 4-game series. You guys think Sam Houston can come away with a series win?
Yeah,
definitely got a chance. I feel like it. Go Bearcats.
I think they have. Yeah, I'll give the Bearcats.
For sure. And I think, a big thing is that they lost their top players, and Colton Cowser being taken 5th overall in the MLB draft. They lost their power-hitting first baseman, Jack Rogers, as well as their #1 pitcher, Kyle Backus. And so kind of filling those holes, and I'm really interested to see how the team kind of fills, that center fielder and that ace position. But I think they do come away with a nice victory. I think they take 3 of those games. I think that doubleheader on Saturday will, tire them out. They may lose that one Saturday night, but I really think they come away with a series win. And over the weekend, on Thursday, basketball plays against Abilene Christian, as well as on Saturday against UTRGV. How are we feeling about those games?
Women or men?
Both of them.
Sorry. Okay. Women, ACU, they get their revenge. Coach Justice is back, ladies and gentlemen. So look out for the women's game on that one. Also with University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I got them winning as well. They beat them pretty good last time, and I don't see much of a difference in the next matchup. And for men's, a W against ACU. They beat them the first time. Very close game, but I got to roll with my Bearcats on this. And also, University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, I got them winning that again. So I'm 4-0 with this one. Let's see what happens.
Women's, I have no doubt in Coach Justice because so far it's been W, so I have complete faith in her that she's going to win again. And the men's, like I said, I have no doubt. I'm full. They're going to win, so I have no doubts about that.
I agree with y'all. I think the biggest game for either program that's coming in is definitely that ACU game. You know, there was a lot of talk after that game, especially after the celebration that ACU had on Sam Houston's court. That was a big deal. I think Sam Houston gets their revenge. I think they get that win. And I think on the men's side of things, I think that win against this last weekend really kind of pushed them to that momentum that they need on the second half of the season. Okay. So those are our game picks as well as going forward. And lastly, just to close out this show, Super Bowl was yesterday.
Yes.
How y'all feeling?
Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
I lost so much money.
I'm ready.
Lost $60.
Okay. All right. So who's gonna start us off?
Malik, go ahead.
All right. Well, I feel like the big key contributor to why the LA Rams won and the Cincinnati lost was definitely Cincinnati's O-line giving up 7 sacks.
Yes.
I want to say the penalty at the end of the game against Cooper Kupp. The first one was very ticky-tack. I feel like it should have been a 4th down, and it should have been the ball should have been going to Cincinnati after that. But good play from both quarterbacks. Joe Burrow did real good, but only 1 touchdown, 263 yards. But with 7 sacks, you know, what more can you do? Matt Stafford had a good game, 3 touchdowns, 283 yards passing. Did throw 2 picks, but definitely this was a game more so about which defense was going to not mess it up for them. And I feel like the mistakes that Cincinnati made at the end of the game really hurt them at the end.
Eric?
Like you said, Cincinnati lost a lot of money. But giving up 7 sacks, that was the most I had trouble with. I think punting 4 straight times in the second half was, in my opinion, that was the smartest move. Yeah. And even Zach Taylor agrees that the turnovers, they should have took advantage of that. They should have had that in their favor, but I feel like Cincinnati, they blew it. Yeah. Cincinnati blew it, man.
I agree right there with y'all. I'm happy for the Rams. I'm happy for a lot of their players. Been a big Odell fan since he's been in the NFL, a big Aaron Donald fan. And Matt Stafford's been one of my favorite players, but he's been stuck out in Detroit his entire career, getting a Super Bowl ring after 1 season leaving. So I'm happy for the Rams, and especially because the Bengals will be back. That's a very good team. I mean, Joe Burrow's in his 2nd year. Jamar Chase is a rookie. You fix up that O-line, there's no reason that team can't be back in this game next year.
Yo, can LSU, right?
Yeah. And they got that LSU connection and everything.
They do.
And I also feel like we got to give Cooper Kupp his flowers. I mean, 8 catches for 92 yards, 2 touchdowns, Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl MVP. You know, this is one of the greatest wide receiver seasons I've ever seen in my life. You know. And
yeah,
so,
he set a record with Larry Fitzgerald as the only receivers ever to catch a touchdown in all 4 postseason games. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, one heck of a season from Cooper Kupp, and finishing out that season with the Super Bowl ring. And that'll do it here for the Playbook, taking a closer look. We thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you again next week. Have a great night.
Go Bearcats.